Good day, everyone. My name is Lida, and I'm really excited that you guys have joined us today again for our GL 363 Leadership Matters webinar. We are really thankful that you are able to, in this time where so many things going on, that you are able to spend this hour with us. My name is Lida, as I said, and I'm from Cultivating. I know I'm going to be your host today. So today we're discussing a topic that's very close to my heart, on storytelling and the power thereof in leadership. Now, effective leaders need to communicate, to inspire others, they need to challenge the status quo, and they need to make an impact in the world. And what better way to do that than to tell a story? Now, because it's Women's Month, I've invited two very powerful women that I admire, Vuyokazi Matu and Clementia. They are the directors of Voice of Africa Global Media. That's a values-based film and television production company. And they develop and produce engaging African content and programming for multi-platform distribution locally and internationally. So in short, they are storytellers. So before we jump off and I introduce you to the two of them, just some practical arrangements. You guys will notice that your microphones are all muted. So that's just to ensure that we don't have any background noise. However, we do want to encourage you to participate. If you have any questions at any time, please type them in the Q&A section that's at the bottom of your screen. We allow 15 to 20 minutes in session for the questions. There's lots of questions, we'll fit in all in, and we'll start earlier. So also special welcome to all this is part of the leadership development program. Some of our partners that are today, thank you so much and a warm welcome to you. Hello. I'm not sure if you lost me there. So sorry about that. It seems like I jumped off. So I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear, but maybe just a practical arrangement. Your microphone has been muted. And we're going to allow some questions at the end of the session, so please feel free to pop them into the questions and answer section. And then I want to just tell you a little bit about GLS 363. It's an initiative that we've done in partnership with the Global Leadership Network, who host an amazing two-day summit every year around the world. GLS 363 is a continuous leadership development program that focused on developing the biggest development needs that you have, and you're supported by a success partner who takes your hand on this journey. So you can go and have a look at our website, gls363.com. And also, I just want to remind you to also register for the actual GLS event that's happening in South Africa in October this year. So without any further delay, I want to introduce you to Vuyo and Clementia. Ladies, you can switch on your videos and microphones as well, please. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to welcome you to this month's webinar. And every time that I have spoken and engaged with you, you have left me inspired with your stories and your messages. So I know it's not going to be no different today. I'm sorry that I left you there all by yourself when I dropped out just now, but luckily I was back quickly. Maybe just before we start unpacking today's topic, maybe you guys can just share a little bit about your story with us, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I would give the honors to Clem.
All right, I usually will do this. We are Voice of Africa Global Media, But I believe that the intro that you already given, leader, is exactly who we are. We are storytellers. We want to inspire people to come out and tell their own story. Yeah, and of course we develop content for television, for radio, yeah, and we also of course do cultural intelligence, you know, and just encourage organizations to build unity within. And that is more okay.
And what better way to do that than by telling stories, say? I remember I once met Vuyo and Clementia in the waterfront for a coffee back in the pre-COVID days. And you guys were telling me about, you know, how you're really telling African stories, and it's stick by me. And that's why I thought that when I'm having this topic, I'm definitely going to invite you, because so thank you so much. So maybe Vuyo, you can jump in and tell us, you know, why do you think is storytelling, why is that so important?
Sure. I find storytelling of today is just so important in terms of being able to display human nature. I think because for us, we are about truth. I always say, naked and unashamed, you know, and because you have to understand what your identity is. When you get into the market like ours, you know, you have giants, you have people that have been there for a long time. So you have to understand your identity as a business. For example, so for us, it's like what has shaped our importance and narrative when it comes to storytelling. It's just the importance of the truth in the times we live in. And especially as the voice of Africa and as a voice in the in the media sphere of influence. It's an industry that is associated with fakeness, with everything that is chaff, that's not real. Things we do with adverts, for example. I would do a shoot with someone who is fat, and I can Photoshop the picture and say, "Ooh, look what this product did in 2 weeks." You know. So we are we've come into the industry with just the spirit of authenticity, of restoration of truth on the mountain. And if you you follow and understand that the principalities that have worked in this mountain for generations has been those that have been influenced by the forked tongue, the twisting of the truth, the instilling of fear and terror in people, with the destructive spirit to society, enslaving to fear and enslaving to lies. So lies became our currency for making business. So we're passionate about the truth. We're passionate about telling stories about human transformation, about the journey, about removing, I'll say basically just removing the fakeness and the facades, even when it comes to leadership. Because just talking stories about human transformation, about character, about the challenges, about the offenses. So for me, when it comes to, like, as we're coming together, when we talk about storytelling and it's to do with leadership, there's no better way to be rested in the truth. Because we have grown actually even thinking that parents are perfect because we only see the glory side. And it's actually just reminding me of my disappointment after my first boy was born, when people, everything that I read in magazines and everything I've ever seen has always been about how wonderful it is. Nobody really takes you to the human feelings and the attitudes of the heart of what you are dealing with when you are waking up at 2 a.m. changing the nappy. Everybody says it's beautiful to have a baby. So I really went thinking it's only beautiful. So,
yeah, and then the reality is quite eye-opening.
yeah, the reality is quite the opposite. So even when it comes to leadership, I think the truth and the authenticity is something that the world is crying out for its restoration. So when we tell the truth in this, it is to say, I'm a leader, I'm a human being, I have weaknesses, I have strength, I've made mistakes here, I've failed here, and I've overcome here.
Mm. I think the one thing that you're saying that's really triggering with me is that, you know, the stories that we tell, if we keep telling stories of, you know, that's not true, and that's lies, and that's, you know, sort of building something up into something that it's not, you know, people start believing that as the truth, and it starts to shape us, and it shame us as well, you know, and it makes us feel that we are not good enough. So if we tell stories, it needs to tell authentic stories about the truth so that people can say, you know, if you struggle with stuff like that, it's okay, you know, because I'm also struggling, and we sort of can unite in that. So, so that's really good. So my next question is, you know, what, as leaders, what should we tell stories about? What should our stories be about? Clementia, maybe you can answer that one.
I'll take that. Yes, I think Vuyo also touched that already. You know, leaders tend to want to only bring in the positives, but people are more inspired. In fact, they come if you tell your own experience, for instance, and especially the side of failures and how you came out of that, you know, and stood strong. You know, people realize that you are actually human, because you are not only looking at them to make money in your business or in the organization. You are actually a human being. It brings the life. It brings life into the situation. So you draw people, you know, to the human touch of things. So then they can say, oh, okay, if she can fail, which means it's not so bad if I failed. What's important is that I get up. After I have fallen, I get up again. So we tell stories about our own journeys. When you start to look back at your own journey, first of all, you realize that everything that looked like a setback. Vuyo is one of the people that I know that she also gets inspired by my own story, but when I look at the story that today she's telling, how she had to make some drastic decisions that has cost her, you know, financially dearly, but because she valued integrity, she had to go through that, and she had to say no to certain things. People are waiting there, and they are powerless, and they don't know that you can actually, while you have nothing for your business, and some opportunity that is not godly, or that doesn't have integrity on it, comes and presents itself to you, you are able to say no. Whether we are in the lockdown or COVID-19 situation, or your business is closing tomorrow, you can still say no. You know, so the experiences that we go through, and in addition to that, I believe that the internal customers in your business are the most important people to also tell their own stories. Encouraging your employees, you know, you'll be surprised how that changes a person when they realize you are interested in the deeper things in their lives. If they can come out, and, you know, it brings back productivity, it brings back, you know, morale, and people start to say, I belong here. So each one of us, we can tell, and a story, it doesn't have to be a story about making money just because we are dealing with business. Like I said, you know, it could be, how do you deal with people? You know, Jesus told the story of a good Samaritan. You know, there was no money making there, but it was a good will of a person. Stories like that bring life into a situation, that encourages people to see people around them and become part of each other.
Absolutely. I think, you know, there's something about a story that grips people's hearts and minds that you don't get when you just share some facts with them. You know, so you can tell them it's a good idea to help others, like in the Good Samaritan, or you can tell that story that's a powerful story that people will remember and take with them, that will touch them in a different way. And I think that's what we need to do, is we need to figure out a way to not share only information and facts, but share stories about what happened to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Vuyo, what do you think? How can storytelling make us as leaders be more effective? As a leader, as someone that needs to make an impact and need to change, need to take people with us to a goal. So how can storytelling help us with that?
Sure. What's coming to mind more is really about the fact that when people come to, I would say, to the business environment or the organization, it is human nature to want to move to the next stage. Everybody's always looking up, looking to the next level, looking to the next boss, the next position. Just climbing the ladder is part of our human nature. So we see that in Africa today, for example, not just in Africa, in fact, in the whole world, one of the key messages that leaders must be focusing at this time is really climbing without compromise. Climbing, I think, when it comes to climbing without compromise, meaning that to make sure that in your journey as you move from day to day, from position to position, it becomes a lifeblood in the vein of every organization to embrace the way the ways of the integrity ways of climbing. For if you look at just what competition has done, the damage that competition has done to not only the bottom line, to stress, to human nature, to day-to-day choking life out of going to work on a day-to-day basis. And also just being genuine about the human feelings, because we're not objects. Yes, we come from being treated like objects. You know, at work, it's like there's a company and you are things that need to fulfill the bottom line of the company. But it's been just amazing to see the shift to the sensitivity towards it's humans that are working in your company. So I think at this time, the leaders would be helpful. I think one of the key things that are so important is really about how the mind work in terms of decision making. Employee, you walk into the business while still is a reception, you faced with your very first test of your choices. So when you make choices, when you make decisions, from what point of departure are you using? So that's very, very important, from the way you greet the receptionist, to the way you relate to the middle manager, to the way you engage with the CEO. What is the value within that organization on treating people because they are people, not objects? And secondly, how do people make decisions? Because they are doing those for your company every second. So the issue around decision making and choices is key, because that's what actually establishes the credibility of your business from moment, every minute of the day. So if leaders could use the power of storytelling to influence how to make choices and how to make decisions. And I would say maybe thirdly, and also just the human nature, the reality of feelings and the ways of thinking and human growth. Because you find that some of the challenges with people is sometimes not understanding themselves, why they feel the way they feel. And that's the engine of your organization. People need to understand why you feel the way that you feel. That's why at Voice of Africa with Clem, our business, we really like to focus on truth. It's really our passion, because I'm remembering that now, actually, there's so much that we could have been saved on if we were to tell the truth about the feelings that a person goes through in the work environment, why you feel that way, and where do they come from. For example, from around the table as leaders, whether you are general employee or managers, why are you jealous? Where does this come from? You know, even from the church's side of things, it hasn't helped us to just say, don't be jealous. It's like, yes, I know I must not be jealous, but I am. You know, so help the person to understand, why do you feel jealous when somebody else is prospering next to you? How to be secure when there's greatness around you and you feel small. Why you feel that way, what healing needs to take place in order to establish a secure identity and security in who you are, irrespective of what other greatness happens around you. So I feel like because we've operated in the Babylonian system that had this veil that has also infiltrated in the church as well, we've contracted the same value systems, which are about to pretend things don't exist, you know, just shape up and get out of it, instead of helping the human nature to understand themselves, why they feel the way they feel, and how to be equipped for them to then know how to deal with jealousy when it comes, instead of just saying, don't be jealous. You know, just say jealousy happens when this and this has happened, and this is how to deal with it. When you are a leader and you are threatened by someone who's coming up after you, it's been one of the biggest challenges in the corporate place. But have you ever seen anything about that? Have you ever seen anything about how when you feel insecure as a leader, this is what you do? You know, so those are the type of effects I find. It's subjects. It is subjects that are affecting us in organization every second of the day, but we just pretend they are not there. Yeah. Or we just tell people, get out of it, without equipping and on healing those cracks, because they are real.
I love what you're saying, Vuyo. You know, it's so true. We spoke 2 months ago, you know, webinar with legal Stefan from the foundation as well, about feelings and how we need to acknowledge that feeling. And it's not wrong to have certain emotions. You know, it's wrong how people act out of those emotions, but it's not wrong to have them. You know, we need to acknowledge them. We need to talk about that. And we need to tell stories about how we've overcome. I mean, I hear so many people saying that, you know, we shall not fear in a time like this with this things around us, but we all get into a place where this is fearful, and we need to acknowledge that, but we need to also tell stories about how we've overcome this fear in a leadership position, in a business, and you know, that's not true. So, yeah, I think, what about, you know, with leaders that's having difficulty with storytelling? You know, it's maybe difficult. They don't really know where to start and how to construct a story for the people out of this, you know, and it's just easier, like what you're saying, to just pretend. How do we construct authentic stories? What's your advice? Clem, maybe you have some advice for us.
Yeah, that's what Vuyo has been saying. It's about the truth. When you tell a story, you are not making things up. So it shouldn't be difficult to tell your story. And like I said earlier on, we should value the journey, the good and the bad of the journey that we've been through. So to open up and speak about it, you have to know that you are pouring yourself out. And that shouldn't be difficult because you are telling something that has happened. You know, sometimes leaders are more comfortable going to a psychologist because they have a problem. And yet, in you telling your story to the ones that you are with on daily basis in your work environment, it brings healing to yourself.
Yeah.
You have no idea that the minute you share, because people think you separate, you know, yes, we have to a certain extent separate work but the fact remains is we are human beings and we are here at work. Therefore, every part of us is here. And that the fact that we spend 8 hours on daily basis, it means that we have to be true with each other. Sometimes you find CEOs, they go through divorce. And it's something far hidden somewhere. But because they do not know, firstly, their identity, secondly, that the people around them may benefit hugely if you were to tell your journey, how you got there, what happened, the things that have happened to bring you to that point. You would save lives. Instead of being ashamed of that story because of its detail and maybe, yes, because of how we are seeing things and the Babylonian system says you must be perfectly perfect and now you cannot tell that I actually went through this. You'll be surprised how many of your employees could be saved from not going through what you went through just because you came out and you spoke about it. Now that on its own takes a person to know who they are. When you know who you are and you know that these things happen in life, you know, and yes, you can blame yourself, but at the end of the day, if you are a leader, you have to get to know that the purpose, you know, we all have a purpose in life. And if your purpose is to build organizations, which means you have to build people. And people are not being built from, you know, out of human touch. We have to come to the reality of the lives that are part of us on daily basis. Now, these lives, sometimes I'm just reminded about something, I'll share it. These you know, experiences, it could be things about poverty, it could be things about marriage, it could be things about self-guilt, you know, someone did something and now they are guilty. But if you say to your employees, I have been there, I once stole and this happened, but because I know my purpose, that it does not, you know, rely or is not dependent on me doing wrong, but doing good. Therefore, you sort of liberate that one. Instead of coming and say, don't steal in my company, don't A, B, and C. So people think you are this perfect thing that comes and stand in front of them. But if you say, it happens, like Vuyo says, it happens, you know, you take a pen home from your company and you tell them that was me. I used to do that. And unfortunately, he is looting. You know, it doesn't have to be a million. It doesn't have to be a million. But those little things that people realize that, oh, so you are also capable of, you know, oh, okay. Then they sort of think themselves, okay, sure, which means I can get out of this myself, you know. And if a person does not know, you know, that they have a purpose and others will be looking at them to grow or to do good in society, therefore they are already doomed. But if we can tell our story, our failures, and we all mentioned earlier on that, you know, society says you must be A, B, and C. But when you come back and you say, okay, what is my purpose here? Am I important if I am a cleaner here, same as the financial director? Am I? But society has said, oh, financial director is their thing. And you are just, but therefore we run out of servant leaders who are not shy of cleaning up. But if now you bring the element and you bring everybody to understand their purpose, then they can realize, you know what, I might be a cleaner, but here in this organization, I am valued, and my story is known, and I am part of this team I am building here, then you find that the morale is increased and there's harmony among, no competition, no jealousy, because everybody knows that, you know what, I am part of this. And without me, this organization will not go forward. Therefore, let me pull up my socks.
I love what you're saying, Clem. It's not only about telling stories, but encouraging people to tell their stories, because you want to create a place where you say, I belong here because my story is known. And people know my story and they know me. And that makes people feel that they belong, which will create this engaged organization, which is great. That's what we want. As leaders, we need to tell stories, but we need to also encourage people to tell their stories of how they have overcome. And, it's a lot of times, I think, as leaders, we sort of share the last page of our little short story, the last page, instead of sharing the whole thing. People don't like hearing about the conclusion and what you've learned. You need to tell them how you got there, because that's where the power is.
It's so important.
Thanks,
it's so important. When Clem was talking about just the cleaner, for example, when you keep saying you are important here and all of that, and I was actually like, that thought crossed my mind of the season that we have come to, just as a nation, as a society, as a continent, and as the world. When it comes to seasons, we have come to a time when ordinary people begin to have a voice like never before. And so I just wanted to give, maybe I know this can add value to someone somewhere. You've been telling maybe your receptionist and your cleaner how much you value them. And whether they believe you or not, I don't know. But sometimes there's actions that you can implement to showcase the level of that value, which is not in handouts. That type of value can be when you are dealing, for example, with appraising your staff. You can use the input of the receptionist and the cleaner in terms of the character of those people and managers within the business. I used to be amazed at the cleaner at our office who cleaned the company for 10 years. She knew everyone in and out because we are naked before those who are the lowest. Because as a leader, mind you, the people who seem to be at the bottom have got a better view of what's happening above them than the people who are actually there. So if you can involve their input, just ask them 2 questions when you want to value the treatment and the character of those people. And it reminds me of story of one of my friends who's a security guard. Clem knows the story. He's a security guard. He's been looking after the flats, one of these expensive apartments in Kemps Bay. And so the other day he was just talking about just how sometimes money and richness and class can blind you. And he was talking about how, says, I'm looking after these people for 10 years now. I'm the security guard of the whole complex. They treat me like a piece of nothing. It's like sometimes they don't greet me. Some, they don't even know my name after all these years. They just know I'm the security guard. It's like, how stupid can you be? You want me to look after you at night while you are sleeping, but you don't greet me. How stupid can that be? He said, you entrust me with your life as a security guard of this complex when you are sleeping at night. but you don't greet me or treat me like a human being. Say, yo, some people are really lucky. They are really lucky that we come from homes of integrity.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I think just one last question from me. I want to encourage everyone as part of this very interesting conversation with these two lovely ladies to please post some of your questions that you might have for them in the questions and answers section. Maybe Vuyo, you can just close before we jump into the questions with one of your own stories. I know you have lots of them. I don't know if there's anyone that comes to
mind. Sure. You know, can you believe what's coming to mind is really just staying on the love lane. You know, as leaderships, we're not necessarily there to invade as dominators, but we are positioned as liberators with proper motives of installing God's love. So I think one story for me that has come over and over again has been the fact that besides the integrity story that is well known, but I think the one about embracing whom we love, staying on the love lane and using the power of love as your boat of escape in every situation. And it's easier said sometimes than done. But when you look at, for me, I have happened to before be a BEE partner in a business, in a very, very white dominated industry and even dominated white business. And some, I would say more from the industry, and also having been in the Western Cape 22 years now this year, and I've just experienced being an African Black in a white dominated surrounding and leadership and all that, and how you can sometimes often be treated and be perceived, and how that can affect your character. Firstly, you are always in an environment that questions what you know. It's like, okay, there's 10 white people around this table and this Black woman. It's like the first thing is you feel, sense, and see, and even have evidence of how we are treated. It's like, what good can you tell us? You know, it's like tap dance so we can see if you qualify to be around this table. So I've always felt like I've always had to embrace love as a way of escape every time we're faced with these situations that wants to judge you according to the fact that you are here by luck because we must have a Black person in this table, or whatever reasons people perceive or they have about you. And actually it can be a lonely place, especially on my part. My story was that in that time already in the 2003s in the Western Cape, in the media industry. So you go to a place where the Blacks see you as a sellout, that, oh, now you are partnering with these white people to help them have a BE status, so you have launched us, you know. So, and then on the other hand, you have the whites that have been in the industry for long, but now you are leading them as a business partner. They are your employees in your company, and they're like, you got there because you're Black. So you find that you're not winning in any side. So I feel like it's been one of the biggest hot seats that I've had to sit in a very long time. Very uncomfortable, very painful. Story for another day. It's also got its shortfalls, its failures, but at the end of the day, I had to overcome. It's costed my family a lot, because when you are in those environments that constantly questions your abilities, what you are able to do, your skills, whatever you can deliver, you know. So everything you do is questioned, is zoomed in more than others. You have to work double. So it costs your family, because you have to put extra time, extra effort, extra, because you are always on a measuring scale. anything that you do. And your mistake is not a mistake. Your mistake is a proof that you see you are black and you're in this table and you don't belong here. So I've always had to then, after being broken, after being questioned my own knowledge, after questioning your own journey, questioning your own abilities and all of that, God had to give me that power to love in every situation, to seal it with love. And I love the quotation that says, love is a spiritual force that helps us to maintain integrity because of the love of God inside of us that constrains us. Because we are, the Bible says you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. And you know what he requires of you. And because of that love, being constrained by it, you use it as your way of escape.
That's lovely, Vuyo. And you have such a great story of overcoming all of that, being such a inspiration in what you have achieved. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
I see how we have two questions. The first one is from Antonia, and Antonia is asking, how do you make sure that when you share your story that you're not seen as a weak or a poor leader?
There is a certain level of self-preparation you would need to do in certain situations. You are the one who knows your environment the best. And we understand as well that we are coming from a society that expects perfection from leaders. So I think for me, the first thing that I find important is to first tell your story privately from whether it's like your coach, so for your coach, so that when you are telling it, you are not still in the state of being shattered by whatever it is that you are sharing. You're not a mess while you're sharing it. So is that you can share your story somewhere else first from your place of safety and strength, and gain the muscle to be sharing it without being affected by the response. That's one. And also, it is because you are a leader in this time and in this era. So if we had embraced the truth long time ago, so it would not be a problem for you to be vulnerable now. But because we are part of people now at the forefront of change, so part of trailblazing and being forerunners is the importance of being healed when you're driving change. Because you are going into a place where there will be a backlash. And you have to be able to take it because some people may not be used to it. But what is may not be used to that truth, but you know your environment the better. So my advice would be that to start with something you have overcome.
Oh, thank you. We have 3 more questions, so we can keep the answers quite short. But if you feel
okay, sure, yes.
What advice would you give to change from untruthful stories to being truthful and vulnerable with each other? This is Alistair asking that question. Clem, maybe you want to give it a go.
I didn't get that one, Amma. Sorry.
He's saying, what advice would you give to change from untruthful stories to being truthful and vulnerable with one another?
Awesome. What I've learned is that stories are not always good. What can I say? Positive.
Yeah.
So my bad story, for instance, can help you even though it is bad. You know, so to be vulnerable to each other, we have to gain trust first. I noticed this when we had a, work with another company in Cape Town, another law firm in Cape Town to come do cultural intelligence. Now, there was, in one room, we had about 40 people that had management and staff. But now we realized later that, in fact, when we spoke now to the organizer, the person who had invited us, that it should not have been like that, because there was a gap. There was a mistrust between staff and management. Now to have people in one room that don't see eye to eye or that don't trust one another, you cannot go anywhere. So as we were giving the presentation, you could just see tears in the eyes of the people, which means there is something I want to say, but I can't say it because that person is present and I cannot trust them. That on its own is big. And when we realized, because after we saw what happened, when we are now starting, okay, the first thing that we did was list out the things that are a burning issue in your heart, but don't put your name. And then people are honest, they can write everything. But now when you say, okay, let's go further, I hear your question, but now let's go further. A person cannot raise their hand because they wrote that in confidence, that you are an outsider, so you can know that I feel this way, but I don't want to tell anybody who I am. So to create that safe space for people to speak, you have to gain trust. And yes, it depends where the organization is at that time. You will need to invite, those that can come and work with you from the outside, where the people can be honest and truthful with them. Have sessions for each group separately first, and then come together and build a strategy of how are we going to bring these people, these two people that are not seeing eye to eye, and yet we need both in this organization. How are we creating this environment? Like Vuyo was saying, show them that you value them. Show them that their story is important. Show them that you have heard their cry, even though they didn't say it to you face to face, they wrote it down. Show them that you care and correct the wrongs that needs to be corrected. One time, the Lord showed you one example, because we rely very much on the Lord in this work. Vuyo was busy in this vision or dream. Vuyo was busy conducting, a strategic meeting in the morning, and there was no response to those around her. And she was busy, yeah, we have to do this, A, B, and C, blah, blah, blah. All beautifully on the PowerPoint presentation, but there was no response. And then she started asking, why are the people like this? And God said, look around, ask them. When she was now this is in the vision, when she was now asking them, she realized they are hungry. You are giving a powerful strategy of how to grow a business, but you are talking to people and they are not hearing you. So these are the lessons that the Holy Spirit whispers to us, to say, yes, it's very important. Your business is global business. Voice of Africa, global media. Wow, it's global. But let's start here. Who is taking this business global? Is there openness between you? And can they tell you that they are hungry? Can they trust you? Because if they can tell you they are hungry, when you are now telling them, I was a failure, I was this and that before, they are no longer judgmental to you because you care about the most important things in their lives.
Wow, thank you so much. That's really powerful. Thanks, Clem. Liesel, have a question for you. How do you have any advice for introverts or more private personalities who find it difficult to share their personal experiences with others?
I would say it would be to start small, really, with a small audience. So you don't start in a staff environment or in an office environment. You just start on a one-on-one. You start on it. That's why it's so sensitive, the type of a human resource person that you have. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have. Also, we have an HR background. I've been an HR director. And I see I know it's undervalued. HR, it's always about, okay, how much are you making? Because it's a lot of intangibles. You know, even though now we're finding ways of creating the way to value HR through the tangibles, but the human resource work, it's a lot of intangibles. So one of the important things really on the organization is really to be ruthless in human resource hiring, because like that person is the lifeblood of the organization. I've seen, I mean, not blowing my own trumpet, but I've seen how many times I've had to diffuse a coming storm as a HR manager between people, between individuals as they come to my office on a one-on-one basis. I'm reminded by that. Just going to a person that you can talk to honestly and genuinely, but that person is also important. How their character is like. Are they gonna judge you now when you come with your vulnerable story as an introvert, whatever it is that you're saying? So just to cut short for the sake of time, I'm just remembering many examples, but I'm not gonna go there now. But I would advise really just to deal with them on a one-on-one basis first. And you'll find that once you overcome coming out to that one person, then you can deal with 2, 3 in the group.
Thanks for your.
Can I just say something which the companies always say in their operational company systems and procedures and policies? Most companies, they've got, we have an open door policy, and it's always say, we have an open door policy, you can come and speak to us. And I remember one of the staff members about 10 years ago said, but Vuyo, it matters what you're gonna find behind that open door.
That's so true. Oh, thank you. Lynette, we still have 2 more questions. No, you just we heard your it's very interesting. I'm going to remember that one. It's about what to find behind that open door. Lynette, I have a question. We still have 2 more questions. We can do that before this time is up. Lynette say, what can we offer to also invite listeners to embrace us with their own deep listening, ensuring we truly give them with the love and the value of our story? So how do you invite people to really listen and get the value from the story? Yeah.
I think it's important to understand what matters. What matters. I'm reminded there's a saying which says, as a leader, don't try to do something about everything. Because sometimes it can be so hard on yourself as a leader. Think, oh, that's wrong, oh, that's wrong, oh, that's wrong, oh, that's not right, and try to fix everything. So there's that saying which says, don't try to do something about everything. Try to do everything about some things. Meaning that understand the priorities. Understand the priorities. If it's a burning issue, it's like even between husband and wife, if your husband keeps saying, oh, we need to talk about this and this and this and this, and you're like, hey, the issue here is attention, the attention I need from you, you know? So I think the important thing really is that a priority right now in the context of the season. If it's a burning issue and you know it's one of your top, if you think about the top 5 things that matter in this environment, whether those top 5 points that matter in that environment, it's to do with your relationship basis, it's to do with your home treatment, it's to do with your organization. If you want to tell people stories and you start with point number 55 on the priority list, you may not have anyone listening.
I think the other thing with people will listen to you if you listen to them. If they feel like you never listen to me, they will also stop listening to you and your stories and what you can add as value. So I think as leaders, we need to start listening before we tell. And that will also help that when we tell a story, that people will also listen to us. So we have 2 more minutes for the last question from Zindley. The question is, how does one deal with a leader that is insecure, a person that's threatened by one's potential? And how does one respond in such circumstances? Clem, maybe you can jump into that one.
Yeah. I think it has been mentioned earlier on that love, you know, is the first thing, and respect, you know, because if you already view them that they are insecure, the question is, yes, they are, but do you respect them? You know, because a person, there's a various reasons why that person feels insecure, or they feel, you know, they are intimidated or by you. But now, how do you respond to that? You can, like Vuyo said earlier on, you will not be saying, just stop being insecure. You can't. You have to prove to them that you respect them and you honor them and you love them. That will change them completely. They will see you differently. That other, actually, she's not, you know, up to get my job, or something like that. Whatever it makes them insecure. Maybe you are good at what you do, and then the next thing they think you are just coming here because you want to push them out and take their position. But if you respect them and you show them this, that you respect them, you honor them, whether they're insecure or not, just do your part and see them transform.
Yeah, thank you so much. Vuyo, Clementia, thank you both for spending this hour with us. I don't know if you had the time, I see Vuyo just dropped off, but I don't know if you had the time to read through all the comments that was coming in on the side while we were going through this. I'll send it to you afterwards as well, but I can see that everyone really have enjoyed this conversation and your wisdom, and I really want to just thank you. And I also just appreciate that you made this time available, and we really, really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. Those of you, remember that we do this every second week of the month, so keep an eye out for the next one. We want to also remind you to go and buy the GLS tickets for this year. It's going to be an online event in October, and it's also always very powerful. Thank you all for joining today. We'll send you a copy of the recording if you want to distribute or share it with any of your friends or colleagues. Feel free to do that. Vuyo, Clem, thanks again. A special thank you to you. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for today.
We're honored to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor, privilege to be here.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.